A cold mist clung to the streets of the city, the kind that made everything feel distant, muted. A woman named Clara stood alone on the platform, her breath visible in the chill of the night air. The clock on the station wall ticked toward midnight, its rhythmic sound a constant companion in the quiet. She checked her watch again, late, always late. She paced, her heels clicking sharply against the concrete. She'd been waiting for over an hour, and the train was supposed to be here by now. She had to be careful, she reminded herself. She had to be patient. The last train. It wasn't just any train. It was the one that would take her away from everything, the one that would take her to the life she had been planning for months. But it wasn't supposed to be like this. Are you waiting for the last train, too? Clara froze, her heart skipping a beat. She hadn't heard anyone approach. A man, tall and thin, with sharp eyes that seemed too bright for the darkness of the night, stood beside her. His jacket was old-fashioned, like something from another time. She hesitated. Yes, she said, not sure why she answered at all. The man smiled, his lips curling into something between a grin and a smirk. I've been waiting a long time. Clara glanced at the clock again. It's late. Oh, it's always late, he replied, a strange glint in his eyes. It never arrives when you expect it. But it always arrives. That's the funny thing about waiting for something, isn't it? She frowned, not sure if he was talking about the train or something else. The man turned and leaned against the cold metal pole, his posture casual, like he wasn't bothered by the wait. I think I've been waiting here longer than you, he said, suddenly. It's not an easy thing, waiting. People always think they can outlast it. But they can't. Clara felt a shiver run down her spine. There was something about him. Something strange. Something off. You're waiting for it, too, aren't you? He pressed, as if he knew her thoughts. She nodded. Yes, but I don't know if I can wait much longer. You don't have to, he said, his voice almost a whisper. Sometimes, waiting is just a way to avoid the inevitable. You'll go, but when you do. The sound of a distant train whistle cut through the night, faint at first, then growing louder, closer. There it is, Clara said, her voice tight. The man didn't move. Instead, he smiled. You'll go, but remember, waiting changes you. It always does. The train pulled into the station with a screech, its bright lights blinding for a moment. Clara didn't look back at the man. She stepped onto the train without hesitation, feeling the weight of the decision settle in her chest. She was going to make it. She was going to leave it all behind. But just as the doors were about to close, she heard him again. Remember what I said, he called, his voice clear despite the sound of the train's rumble. Waiting never really ends. It just changes form. Clara turned to see him standing there, watching her as the train began to pull away. His face was a distant blur in the night, but his words hung in the air, chilling her even more than the cold wind. As the train sped into the dark, Clara realized that he had never boarded. He wasn't going anywhere. And neither was she. Not really. The last train, it seemed, was just the beginning.